Yet poor Margaret Brennan was discussing free speech in Germany. Megyn, the claim that she made, I'm not a scholarly historian or anything like that. I've got a meager undergraduate degree, okay? But I think if you took remedial history in the 6th grade, you would know that the claim that Margaret Brennan here made was completely insane.
And on that note, I'll play it. Here she is interviewing Marco Rubio, who was not, as usual, having any of her nonsense.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
It was beautiful. He, in the moment, sliced her down. All I could think of was the A Few Good Men line. You effed with the wrong Marine. You effed with the wrong official from the Trump administration, because Marco Rubio knows his facts. He knows his history, including, of course, European history and World War II, obviously much better than Margaret Brennan, that dolt, does. And she tries to finish it up, her inanity, by saying, like, you know that. You know that. And he's like, wrong, Margaret.
I don't. Yeah, I actually don't know that. You know, I don't know. I understand that in our modern culture, the only historical event that anyone can make any comparisons to is World War II. Every opponent is Hitler. Every political incident is the brink of the Holocaust. This is how our degraded modern media apparatus debates things. So I'm going in already with very low expectations. But even as people constantly invoke Hitler and the Holocaust and everything, have you ever once heard the suggestion that the Holocaust was caused by an abundance of free speech? You know, if you just look at the year 1933, you can point to a few acts of the Nazi Party, the Editors' Act, which said that only Aryans could be journalists, the banning, as Marco Rubio alluded to there, of the other political parties, so you had a totalitarian state, and the Reichstag fire decrees, which severely curtailed civil liberties. Just that alone would seem sufficient to knock down whatever point Margaret Brennan thought she was making. But happily for her, she wasn't even aware of those basic facts of history. And I fear that many of her liberal viewers will be similarly ignorant. So they have to be corrected by the Secretary of State on really basic facts of history.
Well, maybe in that way, CBS is doing its audience a real service. If the audience is as uninformed as Margaret Brennan, then yes, she's providing a service. But I don't believe that. I think CBS News is not recognizable to me. It's really not. I don't understand what this thing is. Even 10 years ago, CBS News was still a journalism outlet. Biased, yes, but I mean, this is beyond. This is like, it was never stupid. Biased and dumb is really unforgivable. And
you know what I found really bizarre, Megyn?
She's the face of it.
I recently did a segment on CBS Mornings on the morning news program, and I thought it was very fair. I thought it was actually a very well put together, balanced segment. I thought they did a really, really great job. And so I thought, oh, good, maybe CBS is really moving in this great direction. But what's bizarre is morning shows tend to be a little lighter, you know, kind of, there's just a bit more levity. And you expect 60 Minutes or the serious evening news shows, those are going to be hard hitting. And in this case, it was exactly the opposite. I mean, 60 Minutes is one of the most serious news properties in the history of television journalism. It used to be. I don't know what has happened, but this is not helping the credibility of the establishment media in the least.
No. I mean, this moron did the vice presidential debate and embarrassed herself. Now she's out there on her Sunday show, which is supposed to be also more dignified and hard-hitting, embarrassing herself. And they continue to not understand at CBS News that the only reason these politicians say yes to her is because they wind up looking so good. she makes it easy for them inadvertently. She's so dumb. Her questions are so pathetic that she's just easy to make a fool out of and have one of those viral moments. Like, when is she and or CBS going to get that she's getting used by smart right-wing politicians who want a viral moment, making her look dumb and them look good? I realize Margaret's too dumb, apparently, to know this, but somebody at CBS News must see it. Maybe they don't like her. Maybe they're enjoying it too. I'm not sure. Here is an actual smart person named Nadine Strawson. She's with FIRE, the Foundation for, I always forget what it stands for. Individual Rights and Education. Thank you. Individual Rights and Education. It's a free speech organization. We've had Greg Louganis on the show many times. She's with it, and she will explain here what actually was happening with Germany's hate speech laws in between World War I and World War II.
Germany then had multiple laws that restricted hate speech, insulting speech, speech that advocated or might incite violence against various groups, including religious groups, laws against defaming or insulting a religion, including the Jewish religion. And all of those laws were very strictly enforced. Many of the leading Nazis were repeatedly prosecuted and convicted and even served prison times. Hitler himself was actually banned from public speaking for several years. The Nazis themselves, as well as many historians, believe that the net impact of those laws censoring Nazi speech was to amplify their message, to give them attention that they otherwise would never have received.
Yeah, so that's actually what was happening. The more they tried to ban speech, the more this controversial speech would burst out, would feel subversive, would be exciting to engage in, and the more people did it. And obviously, CBS doesn't get that. By the way, back in the 60 Minutes report, you know what they didn't have in this report? They didn't speak to a single critic of these arrests or these laws. They didn't speak to any targets of the arrests or people who have run afoul of those laws. That's what an actual 60 Minutes piece would have looked like 20 years ago, where they would have shown you the real life. And by the way, it's very easy to pick the line that says, I hope refugee children die in electrified wires, and say, oh, that's the kind of thing you're going after. You and I both know there are far more controversial speech examples that have gotten caught in the crosshairs of these German laws, that those red files probably have example after example of, that they decided not to highlight on 60. That's the way you do the piece. You find somebody who actually whose kid got killed by an illegal immigrant. And so they subscribed to Compact Magazine because they agreed with their anti-illegal immigration push. And you put that person on to say, you know what? I lost a lot when they criminalized Compact's magazine and they shuttered it. I now feel like I'm not allowed to say I'm upset about what happened to my child. That's the way you do a fair and balanced piece, which 60 Minutes knows, but they're agenda-driven now.
Of course. Even that naughty joke about the migrants playing in electrical fields or something, that's a dark joke. It's a dark joke. It's like an internet meme. It's the sort of thing that statistically everyone on the internet has engaged with at some point. And so I'm not saying that should be the opening speech of a state dinner or something like that, but it's a crude, nasty, dark little joke, okay? And so what is the consequence of that? I don't know. Some people giggle or something. Now look at the consequence, not even just in Germany, but throughout Europe, of banning basic speech. J.D. Vance talked about that in Munich. You had Christians who would pray silently in their own minds 50 meters away from abortion mills. Those kinds of people are arrested. You would have people who object in any way to mass migration. Those kinds of people would be harassed by the government. You would have families in northern England who are objecting to their children being brought into rape gangs by migrants. You would see the force of the law come down against them and
Yes.
the supposed threat that they pose to multiculturalism rather than against the migrants. To your point, Megyn, who are we to privilege here? Someone who's offended by a naughty joke or an internet meme, or the people whose kids have been stabbed by migrants, as has happened throughout Europe?
We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point, as the largest generation is hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and rising cost of living, and we could have a big problem. So what are you doing now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to 989898, get your free info kit on gold, and get a copy of the Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era, with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings. Just text my initials MK to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.